Hello, and thank you very much for joining our Boxcryptor for Teams webinar today. My name is Sophie, and I am an account manager at Boxcryptor. In this webinar, we show you the optimal way to set up Boxcryptor company and enterprise. And in doing so, we give you an in-depth overview of the Boxcryptor team features. After the demo, I will answer all of your questions. So let's start. First off, I would like to provide some general tips concerning the safety of your data. Please do not use your productive data for testing purposes. It would be the best to use some dummy files for your first test to avoid any possible data loss. Make sure that your cloud or your server is accessible. Also, be aware that encrypting and migrating your company's data could take a day or two, depending on how much data you handle. I would suggest to migrate your data after work or on a weekend to avoid possible sync conflicts. Having this in mind, let's start to set up Boxcryptor for your team. And I will now share the screen with you. So the first step is to get to know the functionality of the administration panel, and especially the Boxcryptor policies. Just log into boxcryptor.com/app using your admin account. When you log in, this is what you see. At first, you are in the Manage Account section. Here you can find all information about your own account. You can change your name, your email address, you can see which company you are part of, and you can also set when you want to receive notifications, and you can also enable the newsletter here. When you go to security, you can manage and change your password, and you can enable two-factor authentication. Now, it is important to note here that when you enable two-factor authentication here, you only enable it for yourself. When you want to enable two-factor authentication for every user in your organization, then you have to set up a policy. We will show you how to do this in a second. Now, when you go to groups, you can view every group that you are a member of, and you can create, delete, rename, or leave groups. You can manage the group ownership, and you can add and remove users from your groups. When you go to devices, you can review and manage your devices and web sessions, and you can remove devices you no longer trust. For example, if a device has been lost or stolen. When you go to help, you can open the Boxcryptor help pages, and I have them in German now, but they will be in your language. And here you can find the help to pretty much every Boxcryptor issue. You can also browse our forum and see if another user had the same issue as you before. And of course, you can contact our support. We do highly recommend using this template to create a support, because when you write your issue here, the ticket will come to us with a priority. And when you are a company or enterprise admin, you will of course have the highest possible priority. So we will deal with your problem as quickly as possible. So we do recommend using this template to contact us. And now under advanced, you can export your keys for backup purposes, or you can delete your account. Now let's move on to manage organization. Here you can find all the information about your team account. Here you can change and view your company name. And under security, you can set up the master key. Now, the master key, you can imagine it is like a janitor's key for an office building. With the janitor's key, he can enter all offices in the building. Now, with Boxcryptor, the scenario is that the admin is the janitor and the Boxcryptor team plan is the office building. So with this master key, the admin can access all the data in the organization with this master key, even if the data wasn't actually shared with the admin in the first place. Also with the master key, you can reset user passwords without any data loss. Now we'll set it up. Okay, I will just reload. I think I was logged in for too long. I think I will have to log in again. Okay, here we go. I have to enter the current password, and then I will have to set up a master key password. So the master key password is extremely important. We would recommend saving it somewhere securely, and to make sure that you do not lose this, because without this password, you will not be able to access any data that might be inaccessible otherwise, and you will not be able to reset passwords without this master key password. So it's really important to save it maybe in a password manager, for example. And now it is set up. You can see the status here. It is currently inactive for 0 of 1 users. It is inactive for me because I would have to log in one more time, so it's active for me. But for every user that I will add from now on, the master key will be active. If you have added users to your organization before setting up the master key, you will see them here, and then you can make sure that they log in one more time so that the master key is active for them. So we do recommend setting up the master key first thing you do so that it will be active for every user you will add from now on. Okay, talking about users, here you can add users and manage your users. We will look at this in detail in a little bit. Here you have another group overview. The difference between this group overview and the one you have under Manage Account is that here you see every group in your organization, even if you are not a member of the group yourself. As the admin, you will see every group. And under Manage Account, you only see groups that you are a part of yourself. Okay, so moving on to policies. We do have a large number of policies, and I recommend looking at all of them yourself because every company, every organization has different needs. So different policies might be suitable for different organizations. When you click on them, each policy has a short description what it is about. So I recommend looking at all of them and deciding for yourself which one you need. As I mentioned before, you can enable two-factor authentication for your whole organization here. Now, there are two policies that we do recommend every organization admin to enable. The first one is disallow account reset. The reason for this is that when a user forgets his password, he might try to reset the password on their own. However, with Boxcryptor, when a user resets his account on his own, he will lose all the keys and all the access to the encrypted data, and he will be removed from every group he was in. And the encrypted data will not cannot be recovered without his keys. So that would be a very bad idea. And as said before, with the master key, the admin can reset the user password, so the user will not need to do it himself. So in order to avoid any data loss, we do recommend setting up this policy. You can choose for who you want this policy to be active, and this policy we recommend applying to everyone. Now, the second policy that is important is the disallow permission modification policy. When this is not active, every user in your organization will be able to share permissions, manage permissions, add other users or groups to files and folders. And you might want to have only certain users do that, or you might want to only be able to do this yourself. So in this case, we do set up the policy and we apply this to everyone but ourselves. We do exclude ourselves because otherwise we also would not be able to manage the permissions to the files and folders. Okay, so these are the most important policies. Then we can move on to the activities. Here you can see all of your users' activities. And for example, when and where a user signed in, you can see password changes. You can see that I just created those policies and that I set up the master key. And you can see when users were added or removed, for example. You can also filter by users, you can filter by certain activities, and you can set up a time frame in which you want to look for activities. And you can export the activities as well for a better overview. Right. And lastly, we have the plan section here where you can just see when your license expires, which license you currently have, and so on and so forth. Okay, now that we are familiar with the administration panel, we can move on with setting up our team account. Now, the next thing that we want to do is to create all necessary groups. We will now choose which groups we want to have in our organization and set them up, but we will not add any users yet. So I will have a team group where every user, every single member of my organization will be a part of. I will have a group for the management. And I will also set up a group for our sales team. We will just use these 3 groups in the example. Of course, you can put as many groups as you want. Okay, and those are our empty groups. Good, now that we have done this, the next step is to think carefully about the folder structure that we will use. And then we will create the new empty folder structure and encrypt it. We will not put any data in yet, and we will not yet share it via our cloud provider. Now, at this point, a lot of clients ask me, is it really necessary to create a new folder structure? I already have one. However, I have to say yes, because it might seem as a lot of work at first to create everything anew and then put everything else over there. But honestly, it does take a little bit of time, but it will save you a lot of time, work, and issues in the long run. Because encrypting an existing folder structure is likely to cause sync issues and trouble and will make everything more confusing. And when you set it up right once, you won't have any issues in the future. So yes, we do recommend setting up a new empty folder structure, copying everything over there, and then moving on from that. So when you download the Boxcryptor software, you will have this Boxcryptor virtual drive in your Explorer or Finder. So Boxcryptor auto detects the most common cloud providers. You will have them already here, but you can also manually add locations by right-clicking, going to Boxcryptor and the settings. And here you can browse and add other locations like flash drives, external hard drives, and so on and so forth. You can simply go here and add folders and locations. So in this example today, I will just use a simple local folder. It's just a local folder on my computer, but it works completely the same as a cloud provider or a network share would. All the processes are the exact same with a local folder. So I go in here and I will create a parent folder. Now Boxcryptor asked me if I want to encrypt this folder, and of course I do. And now you can see there's this little green square right here. That means that this folder is now encrypted. I will now create 3 subfolders. And what you will see right now is that Boxcryptor does not ask me if I want to encrypt this one, because since the parent folder is encrypted, everything that is happening below it will automatically also be encrypted. When I create a new file in here, a new folder in here, when I copy something to this location, everything will automatically be encrypted. I will not have to worry about the encryption at all. So I will also create a sales folder and a management folder. Here we go. And that's our folder structure for this example. Now that we have these encrypted folders, we can now move on and grant all necessary permissions. So I want everyone to have access to the parent folder, of course. So I will go to Boxcryptor, manage permissions, and add the group that I just created. I will add the team group and and the whole team will have access to the parent folder. Here we go. And it will now also appear here. So now what you will notice when I go to manage permissions in the subfolder is that not only the encryption is inherited to the children folder, but also the permissions. So when I set up permissions for a parent folder, it will automatically be translated to the subfolders as well. So, however, in this case, I don't want the whole team to have access to the management folder. So I will just remove this group and add the management group. I will do the same for sales. Remove team, add sale. I don't know why these are twice in here, to be honest, because I have set them up only once. I'm afraid it's maybe a little bug, but I will talk to our developers after the webinar and ask them what this is about, because we only have these groups once here. Well, but it should still work nonetheless. Okay, and when we check the team permissions, it's all good. We don't need to change anything because we want the whole team to have access to the team folder. Okay, so now that we have, oh, one thing I want to mention really quick before I move on is that, as you can see, whoops, didn't want to do that. As you can see, you can also add single users. However, we do recommend working with groups. The reason for that is that if you add a single account, the user's public key will be added to each file and cause a complete synchronization of the files over again. Same as when you remove the user from here, then it will also cause another complete synchronization. And depending on how many files are in a folder, this might take a little while. However, when you add and remove a user from a group or to a group, then this will not cause a synchronization. The changes are done only on your machine and our servers. So a whole synchronization is not necessary. So yes, we do recommend working with groups, even if you only have one member in a group, no problem. That's the best way to do it. Okay, so now that we have set this up, we can go ahead and put our unencrypted data into these folders. I have some test files right here. They are completely unencrypted right now, and I will just drag them into these folders. And as you can see, you see the green little squares, so that means they are encrypted. And when I check the permissions, they have also inherited the permissions from their parent folder. Perfect. Now that we have set all of this up and now the data is ready to be worked on, we can go ahead and add our Boxcryptor users. So there are 4 different options to add new users. First of all, you can simply add users manually. I will show you how to do this in a second. The second way is to integrate Boxcryptor with LDAP or Dropbox for Business. You can do this by clicking here and setting up your Active Directory, LDAP, or Dropbox Business. The third way comes with the enterprise plan that we have, and that is account capture. That means that everyone with your email domain can create an account and they will automatically be added to your organization. So for example, when your email domain is @company.com, when someone creates a Boxcryptor account using user1@company.com, they will automatically be added to your organization and they will automatically have a Boxcryptor license. Now, the next thing that we do is single sign-on, also with the enterprise plan. So that means when you use Active Directory, for example, or OneLogin, you can integrate that with Boxcryptor. And your users will only have to use the Active Directory password when they log in to Boxcryptor. And also when someone from your Active Directory logs into Boxcryptor, they will be added to your organization as well. Okay, but in this example, I will just simply add users manually. You can add new users, you can create accounts for them, or you can also add existing Boxcryptor users. They will simply get an email and then they will have to confirm that they want to be part of your organization. I will add new users right now. One is user 1. And when you create a completely new account, you will receive a temporary password that you will have to provide to the users so that they can log in for the first time. And when they do log in for the first time, they will be able to change this password to their own. So I have user 1. I will add one more user. So same goes for user 2. I will now get this temporary password and I will be able to give it to him so that he can change it when he logs in. Good. Now that we have those users, we can add them to the groups that we have created in the next step. So management, I will add user 1 here. First, I will have to enter my master key password to confirm that I'm the admin. And now I will add user 1 to the management group. Done. I will add user 2 to the sales group. And lastly, I will add both user 1 and 2 to the team group. Okay, perfect. And now we are completely done with the setup from the Boxcryptor side. Here we have everything we need now. We have the policies, the groups, we have our folder structures with the encrypted files and folders, and we're now ready to be working here. The last thing you will have to do is that you also share the permissions for the files and folders through your cloud provider as well. So, for example, Google Drive, when you have a folder here, you can show original Google Drive, and then you can go ahead and also share the permissions via Google Drive as well. It is important because right now you have only shared the permissions via Boxcryptor, but of course the users will also need physical access to the files. So you have to share the folders through your cloud provider or network share as well. Okay, that's it. And then the setup is done and you are ready to work. So now in the next step, what I would like to show you is what it looks like for user 1 to log in. I will now sign out from the admin account and I will sign in as user 1. I will now have to use the temporary password. And now I can change it and set up my own password. Okay, now I also have this Boxcryptor drive. I will add also the folder that I have these encrypted files in. Yes, here we are. So I also, as user 1, see this folder. Of course, I need the physical access too, and the subfolders. Now, as you remember, I am part of the management group and the team group. So of course, I can access the management data. It just opened on my other screen, no problem. I see this Excel file. Same goes for this PDF file. I can access this, no problem. However, I'm not part of the sales group. So if I would try to read this, I would have a problem. As you can see, I'm getting this error notification. I cannot access the sales files because I'm not in the sales group and I don't have any permission for this. Okay, now it might happen that I, as user 1, would like to have my own personal encrypted folder where I have my own company data in there. I will also use these test files. Those are my personal, well, not personal, they're also company data, but I don't share them with anyone because only I have to work on them. As you can see, only I have permissions, and we set up the policy earlier that only the admin can change permissions. So you can see the policy works. I, as a normal user, cannot add groups or users. So only I have the permission to read these files. Okay, now imagine that user 1 leaves the company and he has very, very important data here that he has not shared with anyone. I will now sign out as user 1 and sign back in as the admin. Okay, so I will add the location really quick. So I'm now logged in as the admin and I can see that user 1 has created this folder. I can access the folder and see the files, but I don't have the permission. So when I open this, I just get an error notification. Doesn't open. So when these are important files, now what I can do is I can now unlock the master key. In order to do this, I go to the Boxcryptor settings, go to account, and I choose to unlock the master key. Now I need this very important master key password, and it will now unlock the master key. Okay, it's unlocked. So what you can see now, when I try to access those files, no problem. Now I can access the files. Because I have the master key, I can access all the files in my organization. I can now change the permissions as well, and those files are safe and not lost. So now this is the first master key feature. The second master key feature is the reset password function. In order to do that, you go to your users and you simply click on the user that has forgotten the password, and then you can just simply reset the password here. I want to confirm. I will again get a temporary password. And that's it. Now, when I try to log in as user 1, I will need this temporary password. I still have it copied, so I'm just entering the temporary password that I just got. And then again, I can set a new password. So when someone forgets his password, no problem at all. You can simply reset it right here, give the temporary password to your user, and everything's fine. He can log in again. Okay, so that's it for how to set up the team account, how to create encrypted folders and files, set permissions, and how to work with a master key. Thank you very much for joining, and see you soon, hopefully.